Let's start things off with a situation I did not see coming, which is a potential starting quarterback trade, Carmen.
That's unheard of.
Which I would have completely shrugged it off. But I talked to my buddy, NFL insider Peter Schrager.
Love Shrakes. On
this podcast, which you can hear later in the show. He brought up the possibility of Kirk Cousins getting dealt, and he knows and talks to a lot more people than I do. So if he's saying it's at least possible, it's worth the time. Kirk Cousins, starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, playing really, really good football through 5 weeks of the seasons.
Really good football. I wouldn't add the second.
Really?
One really. He's had a lot of turnovers this year.
I mean, the Vikings in general have had a lot of turnovers.
Yes, but he has contributed his fair share of turnovers this year.
He's playing good football.
He is playing good football. I won't take that away from him at all.
He is in the last year of his deal.
Yes, they're letting him play it out.
We already touched on the Vikings situation. It's not looking great.
Right.
Can you picture this happen? Like, is this a real thing that could happen? A starting quarterback being on the move?
I don't know how you do that in the middle of a season. We don't have precedent for that, really.
Not in my memory.
No. And from both sides of this, listen, who is going to bring in a guy unless you run the exact same offense and expect them to be a difference maker?
To be fair, everybody runs some element of the Rams offense.
Yeah, I know. The Shanahan McVay offense. There's what, 8 coaches now? I think 8 or 9 coaches that run this some variation of that system. But Kirk also has a no trade clause in his contract. So he would have to waive that for this to go through. And he actually talked on Wednesday and said he was asked directly about if he would ever consider waiving his no trade clause this season. And he goes, I am just very focused on the Bears and going 1-0 this week, and anything else is not worth my time or energy or attention.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was real firm about that. That's dad speak, if I've ever heard it, of saying, stop it. And I'm going to
turn this car around.
Don't make me turn this car around. Also, Kevin O'Connell really likes Kirk. And I don't think that they're going to part with him unless they know that they have a shot at someone better that can elevate this franchise a little bit more. I realize, though, that Justin Jefferson's injury kind of throws a wrench into all of this, because now maybe you are, like we talked about earlier, thinking about switching up your strategy a little bit and selling off some assets to get a head start on this offseason. But the other component to this is the Minnesota Vikings don't have a great option at backup. Nick Mullins went on IR with Justin Jefferson, which was one of the things that I think was a little bit under the radar at this point. Their current number 2 in the quarterback room is Jaren Hall, a rookie. And he's a late round pick at that. Their number 3 quarterback, Sean Mannion, who is still in the league. I checked.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Good on you, Sean. Keep making that money.
There's not a good option for the Minnesota Vikings at this point under center if Kirk Cousins isn't available. If they trade him away, there's no incentive for them to do that at this point, because it would be a total tank job if they were to do it.
Can I shamelessly stir the pot?
Stir it.
Jaren Hall, the 5th round pick out of BYU.
Yeah.
You know who else was a 5th round pick out of BYU?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Puka Nacua. I'm just saying, maybe there's something magical there.
Maybe there's something magical that happened at BYU and anybody taken in the 5th round out of BYU is automatically better than we all think.
I'm being completely shameless. It would be a level of white flag waving that you rarely see in the NFL, to deal your starter away mid-season with a completely unproven option or a guy that you're bringing in. They worked out Colt McCoy this week?
They worked out Colt McCoy this week.
Colt McCoy's a good player.
Yes.
But to bring him in and just be like, hey, you're the guy. I know you weren't here all summer or have no familiarity with what we're doing.
Right. But here, go.
Yeah. I don't see it. No. And on top of that, how many teams even make sense? I know there's been a lot of talk about the Jets. Zach Wilson actually playing not bad for 2 weeks in a row. And B, now you get into a conversation about assets. The Jets don't have a 2nd round pick because it's going to go to Green Bay eventually for Aaron Rodgers. It's not a 1 because he's not going to meet the 65% snap threshold, but they still lose their 2. Would they give up a 1 for a quarterback that they're going to have for 12 games?
I don't,
knowing that Aaron Rodgers is presumably coming back.
No,
I don't buy it at all. I think
also there's not only do you have the draft capital invested, you have actual monetary capital invested. I mean, I know Aaron Rodgers took a pay cut, but what, he's still $37.5 million out of your pocket to rehab at this point. And they only have what, $8.7 million in cap space right now. What can you do with that?
Yeah, I don't. The only way I see this, and I'll steal this from Schrags, is knock on wood, because we don't want to see it. We don't want injuries. But if a contender that has a healthy quarterback right now loses him between now and Halloween, then I think this is a different conversation. But right now, I don't see. Even in that scenario, though, like, you're going to have to give an arm and a leg and your firstborn if you want Kirk Cousins, because again, we talked about it earlier. Team and we talked about saving your season. We talked about it earlier. Minnesota is competitive right now, though. The games that they've lost have been by 1 score. So from a GM, a head coaching perspective, from an organizational perspective, you're right there. And if you stop turning the ball over multiple times a game, you're going to continue to bank some more wins. They have some winnable games coming up too. Okay, but I've been waiting for them to stop turning the ball over every week. I keep saying that they're going to stop. Week. I know. I keep saying eventually they have to stop doing it, or we should stop saying it. And they haven't. But they have some winnable games coming up in this next month. So I think that Minnesota is going to end up turning it around to a place where you are not going to be able to afford to get rid of Kirk Cousins right now. We both agree Kirk Cousins is probably in Minneapolis, at least until the season is over. Let's move it on to running back, where there are a lot of interesting names. There's a lot of big ticket names, and that's because there are a lot of running backs on 1-year deals that are on not so good teams. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Yep. Those are the headliners. We could talk all day about guys that aren't as well known, whether you want to talk about like a Michael Carter in New York or a Rashad Penny in Philly. But for the interest of this, because these are the type of trades that like make you take another look at your phone. Like, whoa, wait, what happened? So these are the 3 that I think are interesting. It's a similar scenario for all 3, just in the sense all 3 of them have 1 year on 1 year left. I know I did not realize that about Derrick Henry until I started looking through this. Kind of assumed he was going to play there forever, and maybe he still will, but there's only 1 year left on his deal. And it's kind of insane that the Titans are letting him play out that last year and not trying to sign him to a longer term extension. But I think with the market that we're seeing for running backs, that's a testament to the market, in that they think that they can get away with not paying him as much because the slope of the pay scale is going down for this position, unfortunately. So let me ask you this. And it's interesting because just last week, Jonathan Taylor finally gets a $42 million deal. Right. So it is possible for a running back to get 13, 14 million a year, but all these guys are averaging between 10 and 12 million a year. Obviously Saquon and Josh Jacobs are on the franchise tag, Derrick Henry in the last year of a multi-year extension. But what is the market for a guy that's played a lot of NFL football, that has a lot of miles on the odometer, and maybe you don't want to pay 30 million or 30-year-old Derrick Henry another contract, but surely somebody with a need for a weapon might be willing to, I don't know, part with a 3rd or a 4th round pick for a guy like that. Yeah, I think you saw the Jonathan Taylor deal get done because we all thought that there had been irreparable harm to that situation, and that there was no way Jonathan Taylor was going to continue with the Colts. The damage was done. I think a lot of the reason that was reconciled was guys checking their egos, but also because Jonathan Taylor realized he wasn't going to get more out of anyone else, because that's, again, the market. But these guys, I also look at the type of running back that they are. I feel like teams are inching towards these, like, the hot new guys are like the positionless players, right? The ones that can factor as a receiver and be a running back. None of those 3 guys that you mentioned
are guys that are especially equipped to run routes. I know that they can catch balls out of the backfield. They're in the flat. You know, they have some yards after catch ability.
Saquon can do that.
I think Saquon of the three, is the one that can. But you look at Derrick Henry, you look at Josh Jacobs.
Henry and Jacobs for sure.
These are north-south runners that are pure running backs, which is great. They're excellent at what they do. And Josh Jacobs has been available to the Raiders for his career, which is so incredibly rare, because even Derrick Henry's missed some time. Obviously, Saquon has had his share of injury, but for a guy that can just run, and I'm putting up air quotes right now if you're listening to this, for a guy that can just run, I don't know that teams see the value in these guys. And so, yeah, you're going to only have to forfeit maybe a third, fourth round pick for that. And I don't know that teams are going to find that worth it necessarily, especially a team like Vegas or Tennessee, who, I mean, that offense still runs through Derrick Henry in Tennessee.
It does, but Tyjae Spears has looked nice.
Yes.
It's always about what's new. I mean, this is a tough thing to say to a team, and like everybody in the NFL is there. It's competitive nature. It's alpha personalities, but what are we doing, Tennessee? Like, I mean, even in a world where the Titans make the playoffs, do you see the Titans as currently constructed running through the AFC gauntlet? I don't.
No, but I've been surprised by them before.
You are not wrong. I mean, the Titans are they're my nemesis because I just can't figure them out.
If you're in a survivor pool, literally never, ever bank on the Titans, but then maybe bank on the Titans. If
somebody was willing to give you a 3 for the last year of Derrick Henry's deal, I would do it.
Yeah.
That's just me. And I don't know where these guys go. We mentioned Tampa. I think Saquon Barkley in Tampa Bay would be a boatload of fun, but I don't see how the Bucs could afford that.
I don't either.
Same thing goes. I think the Cowboys need more at the running back position. Tony Pollard is good, even great sometimes, but I'd like to see more there. But again, nothing about the Cowboys suggests that they would swing a trade like that when they're already paying one running back $10 million.
That's the other thing you're seeing, though, too, with these teams is where you can't just rely on one back anymore. It's a running back by committee kind of approach. More and more teams are utilizing this because it keeps guys fresh. It keeps the tread off of them. And it also makes it so you don't need to have these stud guys that you need to pay a ton of money to. You can draft them and you can acquire them in these kind of mid-level deals. And that can suffice for your run game in what is still a passing league.
All right, so we're pretty down on the idea of quarterbacks or running backs getting moved, at least big name running backs. Yeah. Like I said, I think there's some down the roster guys that might get traded for some like day 3 picks. Wide receiver is a spot where I fully expect something to happen. And mainly I'm looking at you, Denver. I'm looking at the Denver Broncos and everything that's wrong there, knowing that, yes, Courtland Sutton has a pretty big contract, but it shouldn't stop you from moving him. And Jerry Jeudy, especially in the 4th year of his deal, hasn't worked out there the way the Broncos wanted it to, or I'm sure the way Jerry wanted it to. Why not? Again, 1-4, not looking like you're going anywhere. Kansas City Chiefs rule that division. Why not try to get something there? And we have history that suggests receivers are, I mean, they're so valuable and there are so many spots for them. When you have 3 positions on the field for wide receivers, it makes more sense to do these deals. You saw Kadarius Toney get traded last year from the Giants to the Chiefs. I know he couldn't play last year, but Calvin Ridley was an eye-popping trade. I know there's even more than that. I know it hasn't worked out, but Chase Claypool, that was a big trade at the time. So I got to imagine something happens here before the month is over.
And I also think you look at what you have in Denver, and you're supposed to have an elite quarterback under center. And what can elite quarterbacks do if they are truly elite? Elevate the team no matter who they have around them. We see that in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is Patrick Mahomes, especially this latest iteration of him. But you shouldn't have second thoughts about trading away offensive weapons when you're supposed to have the guy under center for you that can compensate for losses like that by elevating other players around him and younger players and guys that need to develop. So I don't think you think twice about this if you're Denver.
It makes too much sense for me. And I mean, there's plenty of teams that could use receiver help. We mentioned the Ravens. Unfortunately, I don't think the Bills or the Chiefs could afford this type of move just because they're strapped in terms of cap space. The Texans are a name that I heard that is awfully interesting to me. Like
That is.
Nico Collins has had a nice season. Tank Dell is a really nice rookie player, but giving CJ Stroud more to work with, especially if you could get, I mean, Jerry Jeudy for like a 2 or a 3 as opposed to.
Well, and we just talked about how Bryce Young, how they want a number 1 wide receiver for Bryce Young to help him develop. Why would you not give that to CJ Stroud too? I know CJ Stroud had looked the part a lot more than Bryce Young in this early part of the season, but that could only help CJ Stroud develop is if you get him an experienced number 1 wide receiver that he can rely on and can, again, kind of make up for some of those rookie mistakes that he's going to make. We
already talked about Davante Adams a little bit. We don't have to spend a lot of time, but I'm sorry, Raiders and your fans. I want more for Davante Adams.
He wants more.
It seems like
he wants more. Davante Adams wants more for Davante Adams.
It seems like he's not totally, he said the other day, this hasn't worked out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
I don't think he anticipated that his college teammate, Derek Carr, would be gone one season after he got to Vegas. It's nothing against the Raiders. Like I said, maybe, hey, add Brian Burns to your pass rush in exchange for Davante Adams. Or I would love to see Davante Adams playing in big games again. And with all due respect to the Raiders, I don't see them playing in a ton of those the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the Ravens, Texans, Patriots also making sense for a guy like Davante Adams, though, to me, the Ravens are the only ones that make sense because the Ravens are the only ones that have a shot at the postseason at this point. I mean, maybe the Texans can surprise us all, but
hey, the AFC South,
I know.
Open.
It's wide open. It's wide open. I thought that NFC North was wide open coming into the season. Now 5 weeks in, I'm like, nope. It's AFC South.
2 names that people keep talking about that I just don't see it. I don't see why the Bucs trade Mike Evans. No. And I don't see why the Bengals trade T. Higgins. I mean, Mike, you can speak to this. I mean, Mike he's going to go down as
my guy, Michael Lynn.
He's going to go down as one of the greatest Buccaneers of all time. Yep. I know that they didn't give him a new contract. I know, but heading into the season, this was one of the prime names that was like, oh yeah, he's getting dealt when the Bucs are 2-4, but they're not. They're 3-1. They look, I think, the favorite to win the NFC South.
Well, don't forget, that was also coming from Mike's agent, where he was saying, if we don't get a long-term deal extension done, then this will be our last year in Tampa. And Mike wants to stay in Tampa. This is a place where he has a huge presence. His foundation is between there and Galveston, which is one of his hometowns, or his hometown. His family is very well settled in Tampa. He loves the Tampa Bay community in general. He's done so much for that organization. He wants to be known as one of the greats. And to do that, you stay with one team and you're automatically in that ring of honor at Raymond James Stadium. The Bucs do have some interesting kind of decisions to make, though, because they are going to have to pay Chris Godwin. He's on the last year of his contract next year. So after 2024, you have to figure out how to pay both of these guys. And at this point, you signed Mike Evans so long ago. He was on a 5-year deal. This is the last year of a 5-year deal. They signed him for $16.5 million a year. As an average to that contract. That's not what receivers cost anymore, especially your number 1 wide receivers.
Yeah.
So it's not going to come cheap. They're going to have to figure out how to do that.
But I
think they can. Those guys back there, the contracts guys back at the Bucs, shout out Mike Greenberg and Jackie Davidson. They can figure things out.
I'll say the same thing about T, though, is like if he's got to hit free agency, you get a comp pick for him. But Mike Evans should be, and he's got to get healthy from a hamstring. I know that, but Mike Evans should be a key part of helping you get to the postseason, and the Bucs have a real chance. And whatever chance the Bengals have, I know Jamar Chase went off without T the other day, but the Bengals are going to need those guys if they're going to right the ship. If you got to franchise tag them later or get a comp pick for them, I think that's fine. I think if you're a good team that still feels like you got a shot, I don't think that makes sense.